about Hess's law. So what is Hess's law? Let's say you have an equation A plus B makes C, and the change in enthalpy for that is 100 joules. And you have another equation that says C plus D makes E plus B. And the change in enthalpy for this equation is 200 joules. So what you can do is you can combine these two equations. The C's would cancel out because they're on both sides of the equation, and the B's would also cancel out. And then you're left with A plus D yields E. And the change in enthalpy for this equation would be the sum of the enthalpies, the change in enthalpies of these two equations. So it would be 300 joules. And that's what Hess's law states. It states that if an equation, like this one, is done in separate steps, you could combine the two equations, and the sum of the changes in enthalpy of the separate equations will be the change in enthalpy of this equation, of your final equation. It's pretty simple as that. So let's do a practice problem real quick. So we have three separate equations here, and we want to combine them in such a way that we get this equation down here. Iron 3 oxide plus 3 carbon monoxide makes 2 iron plus 3 CO2. So let's start with the first equation. You can see that we have 3 iron, 3 oxide, but we want 1. So we're going to go ahead and cut this equation by 1/3. So now we have 1 iron oxide plus 1/3 carbon monoxide, which makes 2/3 iron Fe3O4 plus 1/3 carbon dioxide. And we also have to cut the enthalpy by 1/3. Next up, let's look at the third equation. We have 1 iron, but we want 2. So we're going to multiply this equation by 2. Simple as that. So then we have 2 FeO plus 2 CO, which makes 2 Fe plus 2 CO2. Now, let's look at the second equation. Sorry. And let's look at carbon monoxide. We want 3, but we've got 1/3 plus 2, which makes 7/3. So in order to get 3, we have to multiply the second equation by 2/3. So we're going to go ahead and do that as well. Next we've got 2/3 Fe3O4 plus 2/3 carbon monoxide. 2/3 times 3, the 3's cancel out, which makes 2 FeO plus 2/3 carbon dioxide. And don't forget to do the same to the enthalpies. right? So by this, we have the two irons cancel out, the FeOs cancel out, and everything else kind of just adds up. All right, we have 1 iron 3 oxide plus 1/3 plus 2/3 plus 2 makes 3 carbon monoxide gas in solid. But that's not really important right now. And the 2/3 Fe3O4 also cancels out, so that's good. And we're left with 1/3 carbon dioxide plus 2/3 plus 2 makes 3. And we have 2 iron, which is the equation that we want. And as for the delta H's, well, it's simple. You just add all these. So we have 1/3 times 58 plus 2/3 times 38 plus 2 times -17 kilojoules right, which equal to which equal to 10.6 kilojoules. And that is our enthalpy for this equation. And that is pretty much Hess's law.